money, politics, and religion. Three topics that you usually avoid at a cocktail party, I would presume. That three of the foundational pieces that are at the heart of our society, our civilization. And all three are represented in the reading we just heard from Matthew's Gospel. Now, why is it that money and politics and religion are seen below? Why is it? Why is it that we don't like to talk about these things? You got an answer? Divisive. They're very divisive, they're very sensitive, they're very personal topics that we keep very close to our chest. Ever been asked, so how much do you make a year? Anybody ever been asked that question? I mean, you couldn't be more insulted, it seems, that somebody would actually ask you the question, how invasive that is. Pardon? As a Canadian. As opposed to being a...
Well, it's not as offensive.
Yeah, possibly not. Not as offensive in other cultures. It is something that we tend to avoid. And yet, in this gospel reading, all three of those things are represented. Money, politics, and religion. You've got a couple of groups of people at work here. Now, just to give you some background, in Matthew's Gospel, the train of events, Jesus has just returned back to Jerusalem with his disciples. He's just cleared the money changers out of the temple, and he has been challenging the authorities with a variety of different parables to have them understand exactly what it is his message is about. And these people are getting a little bit nervous about this rabble-rouser. They're uncertain about what his motives are and what he's all about, and yet they know they're uncomfortable and they need to deal with him. They are so threatened by him that actually two different groups of people that are opposed and almost enemies come together to trap Jesus in a manner. The Herodians. The Herodians were Jewish people appointed by the Romans and were complicit with the Roman occupiers. And the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the keeper of the law of Moses. They were the Jewish authorities who were also opposed to the Roman occupiers. But the Herodians and the Pharisees never saw eye to eye, and yet here they were, both threatened by this man Jesus, and they came together and they offered him a question, a very sly, devious question that they hoped to entrap Jesus with. Now you have to also understand that when we talk about taxes, that the Jewish people were forced to pay many taxes, different kinds of taxes. And this particular tax to Caesar was one that was most hated of all. And they were required to pay about a month's salary to the Roman Empire as an honor to Caesar Augustus, who they claimed, obviously the Romans claimed, was God like himself. And so in order to pay this tax, they would have been just beside themselves. And so they challenged Jesus to the question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar? Jesus recognized that it didn't matter what he said. If he said, yes, it is lawful to pay your taxes, then he would have been denying and working against his own people. And if he had said, no, it's not lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, then he would have been breaking the law and he could have been arrested by the Romans themselves. And yet he turns the table on them and he says, give me a coin. And he evades the snare by playing the same kind of game. And perhaps overeager to hatch their plot, the opponents forget that they are procuring a coin. They betray their own complicity to the Romans. The Jewish people themselves have declared in some manner, by honoring this coin themselves, by actually possessing the coin themselves, that they have dishonored the first two of the Ten Commandments, that there is only one God, and you do not make God in a graven image. So by virtue of them actually in possession of such a thing, throws it back into their arena and has them understand that, in fact, they have themselves betrayed the law of Moses. Money, politics, and religion. I did a little kind of study on the evolution of money. Money has been exchanged for thousands of years, one person to the next. Prior to the existence of money, they would bargain. You have something I need, and I have something you need, and we would exchange those necessities. And over time, when you were without what you needed, you would say, I'm going to give you something of value for that product. And one thing led to another, and the evolution of money occurred to the point of where we are today. And money has always been created to be the end, the means to an end. The means to security and good living, health, security of health and food and shelter and clothing. It was the means to an end. And yet we live in a time and day and age where it seems that money itself has become the end in of itself. Where we acquire it, we tend to find as much as we have and acquire it as much as we can. And it is so much more difficult for us to share it and to ensure that it is evenly distributed across the course of our society and across the course of the world, to a point where there's such an inequity that some people believe we are on the verge of a crisis unlike anything humankind has seen in regards to financial inequity. Oxfam did some research back in January of this year, and they have seen that in 2050, 35 individuals controlled 41% of the world's wealth. 35 individuals. That was in 2015. In January of 2017, that number has gone from 15 people to 8. 8 individuals control the wealth of 3.6 billion people on our planet. That is almost half the entire world's population. It includes people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Michael Bloomberg, from former mayor of New York, and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook fame, and so on. 8 individuals. The inequity is getting greater and greater and greater. And yet there is no sort of impetus or understanding across the globe to say that there is something that needs to change to ensure that people have the same ability to acquire things, that they may be safe and secure and fed and housed and clothed in the manner that allows them to live a life that is suitable and full and safe. Politics. Politics is the way in which we begin to communicate our values and our structures of living that allow us to debate and to determine how we live. In our Western civilization, the democratic principles are at work. And yet, it goes without saying that we don't need to see how our democratic principles are eroding so quickly, and that the polarization of peoples of different ideas and ideologues are debating amongst themselves. It's no longer one in which you can have rich, encouraged conversation that enhance and uphold those things that we think are great in our civilization. They become the things that we build walls and silos around ourselves, that we are right and they are wrong, and the divisions get greater and greater with each passing decade. Religion. The word religio is the word that comes from the Greek meaning knowledge, to acquire truth. The great world religions are the different manners in which we as civilized people begin to find ways of acquiring a different kind of knowledge of the eternal, of the divine, of our Creator, of God. As Christian people, we are pointed through and to the divine through the person of Jesus. Last Sunday, we had a service here that celebrated our diversities as people of different faiths and religions and cultures, where we heard the Arabic language spoken, where we had representations from the faith of Islam in our midst, where there's a sense of community and love and support gathered as one. And yet religion, as we know, has become also more polarizing, where people are dying, hundreds of thousands of people are dying in the name of religion. This is not what Jesus meant when he was pointing out the divisions that were occurring in his own society. We have been challenged to understand and to look at our own coin and what is on the head of our own coins. Who is the Caesar that we worship? What is the God that we put at the foot of our own altars that we build? With just a few words, Jesus reveals a truth about who they were and who we are. And Jesus simultaneously calls them and calls us to a higher fidelity and a higher purpose, one in which we understand that those foundations upon which our society is built are those things that we are called to enhance and support and to create an equity, a sense of justice, compassion, and peace amongst all humanity. Thanks be to God.